Hello, folks. How you doing? All right, back again. Uh, this has to do with uncovering the temple, the temple of knowledge. Okay. Now, we uh, we hear people say that religious scriptures are contradictory, difficult to understand, or can't understand, and so forth and so on. But one thing, the scriptures were based on knowledge, not intelligence. You see, the thing is that people today, as I stated before, have become mesmerized with the idea of intelligence. Okay, but you can't get to heaven by intelligence, or you can't get to heaven by reasoning. You get to heaven by knowledge. So now, the fellow says he can't understand the scripture. Okay, he's going by the literal interpretation. That's where the problem comes in. There's the underlying interpretation, the esoteric interpretation. Esoteric. Well, this deals with the underlying principle. It deals with the natural facts. Okay. And so, because of these two interpretations, we say some people will or try to understand the literal interpretation, but that's the one they say is contradictory. But the esoteric interpretation that deals with the underlying principles of the natural facts that's the one you need to. That's how you need to approach the scriptures. Okay. What we might call the mystical interpretation. Mysticism is something that ordinarily people don't get involved in. Some people do. But ordinarily people don't get into the mystical interpretation. So they get into intelligent interpretation, though, using intelligence. Okay, fine. Intelligence is fine. But like I said, the path to heaven is knowledge, not intelligence. Once you get there, you can use your intelligence because you apply it to knowledge, or base it on the knowledge. You're basing it on what you know. You know something, but you want to take it further. Okay? And that's when you use your intelligence. Okay? Well, we'll take an example. Let's say a person buys a car, but he wants a supercar. Well, he bought a regular old car, So he takes that regular car and take it all apart, and look at its constituent parts. You know what I mean? Now, he knows how that works, hence knowledge. He got knowledge of how that car works. You know what I mean? But now what he wants to do is build the supercar. That's when he applies intelligence. So intelligence now, he's got his intelligence in gear, ready to go, and he's basing it on the old car that he took apart. That old car is knowledge. He got knowledge of that. Now he can build his other one based on his intellectual prowess. He's using his intelligence. Well, that's the simple explanation of it. Okay. But knowledge first. If he had came in using intelligence first, without having taken that other old car apart and learning about it, he would have just been going on with what he didn't know. He passed by the knowledge, and went straight to intelligence. Okay. I'm going to give another example that we all can understand, because it happened. Well, it's in the history books, Though we have, or they had, or we have, The age of reasoning. Wow. It was big time. Well, Europeans learned how to reason, seemed like. They really blew it up. This is when you had your philosophers doing all their writing, and oh man, it was big time. You know what I mean? You had like Shakespeare, you had like the guy Kant and all that stuff. All those guys, they was big time. It was the thing of the day. And it still is the thing of the day. And the people still use a lot of reasoning. And all this fabulous reasoning led to the industrial age. Oh man, they were building railroads and they were building this and that. And oh yeah, you know what I mean? And like places like in Pittsburgh and Altoona, Pennsylvania, they had the smokestacks blazing. You know what I mean? Smoke everywhere. Industrial age. Now, we got climate change. You see, it came from, it started with the age of reasoning. You see, the reasoning obviously was not based on knowledge. You see, when you come out with this plain reasoning, not based on knowledge, you're bound to go wrong somewhere down the line. Yeah, things will look very promising at first. Maybe for a few hundred years, 500, 1,000 years, whatever. They look very promising. But in the end, there's going to be disaster. And us folks living today, we're living with climate change. You know what I mean? Climate change, it gets us into two of the four elements. More, we just use the two of them. The two things they say is happening right now. They say that the oceans are rising, the icebergs, whatnot, wherever they're at, North Pole, South Pole, they're melting. Waters are rising. The water principle. The four elements: water, fire, earth, wind, or air. Well, we got fire and water. The waters are all rising. And the climate's getting hotter. Heat, heat, heat. That's what's going on. Because the folks used intelligence without knowledge. And guess what? Talking about the four elements, fire and water, those two, water is associated with knowledge. Fire is associated with intelligence. Okay. Knowledge is associated with the female. She was first in our species, female first. Okay. Then there's the man associated with reasoning and fire. Fire is associated with intelligence and reasoning. And the man. Okay. You see how these things sort of come together? Now, when we talk about the scriptures, now I say, well, we got to use the underlying principle to understand the scriptures and so forth and so on. This fire and water are two of the main ones. Fire thrives on water. It loves it. Okay? But water first. You see. Water first, and fire, like I say, thrives on water. It does very well. But water is associated with knowledge and the woman. You see. So now, and the destruction by water. Water is associated with the female. So when we take an esoteric view at this, even though the waters are rising, we know why. But when we take a look at this, we see that water is associated with the female, and water is going to destroy the planet, probably change the civilization, I would say. You know what I mean? We won't make it so harsh. It's not going to kill her. It's a change of civilization. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, we will change, okay, from the world of intelligence. We go back to the world of knowledge. We go back to the female. Female? Yeah. The first humans were female. You know, she did eventually give birth to the male, of course, and she taught him everything. Like I mentioned before, she taught him how to use knowledge and how to use intelligence and how to base his intellectual decisions on knowledge. But he deviated. And when he did, he gave us climate change and destruction by water. Now, we have an idea how the Maya made their prophecy. They saw how things were going. They saw that people had become mesmerized with the idea of intelligence and said, to heck with knowledge. They must have seen that a long time ago. Okay? Or maybe people were making the transformation back then. Maybe that's how they knew. Okay. Or maybe they told by the stars. Because these things occur in cycles, vast cycles, cycles of hundreds of thousands of years. These changes come about. Okay. Well, people were here then. You know what I mean? So anyway, folks, when we want to understand the scripture, we approach by way of knowledge. Okay? Knowledge is the pathway to heaven. Knowledge is the pathway to understanding. Knowledge underlies all things. Intelligence doesn't. Intelligence it doesn't manifest until knowledge is here. That's the natural path. Okay? Knowledge is the pathway to heaven. Once you get there, you can use your intelligence. Okay, folks. Have a good one. Take care. I'll be back with you.